Okay, so now we're at I'm going to call it the final video, but we still have two sections to go. But these next two sections are not that long, so I'm going to combine them both together. Okay, so let's recap. So we're learning about strings. We're learning about how they are characters, a sequence of characters. We learned more about binary numbers and how ASCII table come into play. Like I said, it's easier to plant seeds than it is to plant a tree. So I've been dropping seeds, planting seeds in your mind all the way up until this point. So we're going to keep doing that, but I want you to always remember you have to keep reviewing. Okay, so if you made it to this particular content by way of search or first time you're seeing this content, the curriculum link is in the description so you can follow along. It's a free resource and I am going to help you navigate through it. So without further ado, let's get into the curriculum. So here we have special characters. Aside from letters, numbers, and symbols, there is another class of characters that we will occasionally use in strings, known as special characters. Make sure you understand that because it's bolded. These characters consist of special characters combinations that all begin with a backslash. They allow us to include characters in strings that would be difficult or impossible to include otherwise, such as the Unicode characters that are not on our keyboards, control characters, and white space characters. The most commonly used special characters are the backslash N and the backslash T, which are the new line and the tab characters respectively. They work as you would expect. Here is a console.log with a string, a message. Instead of you putting it on a new line, hitting the return, you put the backslash N and it's going to break the line for you, as you can see. Same way with the backslash T. It indents for you. So this is a way to use the actual special characters to get you the results that you're looking for. We can also represent Unicode characters, most of which aren't on a normal keyboard. Using special characters combinations of the form for backslash UXXX, where the X's are combinations referenced by the Unicode table. So there's a Unicode table. Click on the link and then you may want to bookmark it. As a matter of fact, bookmark it because you can use it as a reference. When I first got into programming, when I first became a developer, I was what we call a rich media banner ad developer, animation banners. And I got very familiar with using the Unicodes in my code to be able to put in the different type of things I need, like commas or asterisks or whatever it is that I needed to put into my code. And it kept it from breaking because those Unicodes are recognized on all browsers. So you would use a Unicode so that if I just use the keyboard symbol or some type of image that I may put in to the code to show up in the text, it may not show up on a certain browser. So there are Unicodes to help you create those characters that you may need that will work on all browsers. So that's what Unicodes are good for. All right. This allows us to use character sets other than the basic Latin characters that English is based on, such as Greek, Cyrillic, and Arabic, as well as a wider range of symbols. Here's another one. We have the console.log with a string, and we have a Unicode in here. So when you go in and you look at it in the output, you see what the Unicode is. Again, like I said, it's going to help with on different browsers. Those Unicodes keep your code from breaking. We can also use the backslash to include quotes within a string. This is known as escaping. So remember that term. It's called escaping. And then here we go. So here we go, console.log. And then we're putting in the quotes right here. Well, this is the opening quote and this is the closing quote. But notice I got double quotes. That breaks the rule that we've been telling you up in that you can't put the same quotes on the inside. But if you put the backslash in front of it, which is called escaping, you can, because you may want the double quote. So get familiar with it, because it's a way for you to get the results you're looking for without being limited. Because you may have what we call a team agreement, where you may have your linter set up to where you only use double quotes or single quotes. And we'll talk more about linters later on. But again, that's a seed that I'm just planting in your mind, and we will go over it more in depth as we go further. And so here's the output. You see the dog's favorite toy is a stuffed hedgehog. And you see we got those quotes in there, and we got a single quote in there too. So what happens is the compiler sees that escape, and it knows to escape the double quotes. So that ends this particular section. Check your understanding. Now we're getting ready to go over to template literals. Template literals. Earlier we used concatenation to combine strings and variables together in order to create specific outputs. So here we're declaring and initializing a variable with a string called Jack. We're doing the same thing here. We are declaring and initializing a variable with the number 9. And guess what? These are descriptive variables. Now remember, these variables become objects. But earlier, what we've done up until this point, we've been concatenating all of our variables into our one string, which this is the output. But now we're getting ready to introduce template literals, and we use template literals everywhere when you begin to program. You're only going to use concatenations like this rarely. So we're starting to introduce you to the template literal. It says, unfortunately, this process quickly gets tedious for any output that depends on multiple variables. Often, concatenation requires multiple test runs of the code in order to check for syntax errors and proper spacing within the outputs. Fortunately, JavaScript offers us a better way to accomplish this process. Why are we saying this right here? This is something you definitely want to understand about how JavaScript works. That's why we asked you to understand why is it an interpreted language. When you understand the rules and the principle of how it works, your goal is to write code efficiently. If we can help it, we only want our code to run once. We don't want it to keep running multiple times. Why? Because that's costly. It's going to cost you really money on the back end when that program gets really, really big. In the beginning, it's not a big deal. But you want to start understanding how it works because you want your program to run efficiently. This is another seed we're planting in your mind, because later on, we'll go deeper into it when we get into for loops, so you can understand how things are iterating. Remember that word. Now, template literals allows for the atomic intersection or the automatic intersection of expressions, including variables, into strings. While normal strings are enclosed in single or double quotes, just like so, template literals are enclosed in backticks characters. That's the character on your keyboard that's right over the tab button. Within the template literal, any expression surrounded by what we call a $sign and curly braces will be evaluated with the resulting value included in the string. Again, here's the example. This time we're using a template literal. And see how clean it is when you use a template literal. But now notice the syntax here. You always wrap a variable name inside of $sign and a curly brace. If you don't do this, it won't work. You're going to get an error. But notice something else here. Notice here, I'm actually adding the current age +1. I'm incrementing. You can do that. It's good to see these little small nuances, because later on you're going to be able to incorporate this into your programming, where you can minimize a lot of unnecessary code. You can make it more efficient. That's what the name of the game is. So look at that little bit of information we just gave you on how to use that template literal for a variable. You can increment in it. A lot of people don't know that. A lot of times you'll gloss over this and you don't think about it until a while later. You may never use it in your career. Maybe you will. But look at the output, and you noticed here the current age was 9, and what they did, we incremented it by 1 by adding the plus sign plus the number 1, because 9 is a number, and this variable is referencing or holding a number. That's why I was able to add it. Remember, this plus sign has dual purposes. Besides allowing us to include data in strings in a cleaner, more readable way, template literals also allows us to easily create multiple line strings without using string concatenation or special characters. Now here we go. We created this poem right here, and we're using the template literal. Notice here we can write it all out. We can put the spaces in, and the template literal is recognizing everything, and this is the output that we get. Template literals are your friends. You're going to use them a lot. Now the ECMAScript specification, we call it JavaScript. That's like the outward word, but the real name of JavaScript is ECMAScript, not JavaScript. We just call it JavaScript, but the real name is ECMAScript. And define the standards for JavaScript. The 6th edition, known as ES 2015, this is around the year I was starting to become a developer, so this was fresh when I first became a developer. Added template literals. Not only are template literals relatively new to JavaScript, but you may encounter environments such as older web browsers where they are not supported. That's a big deal, because it may not be supported on older browsers, but we said older versions of the browsers. So what that means is, believe it or not, some people don't update their browsers, and they're using older versions of the browser. And that's something your company will have to take that in consideration, depending on how old or legacy their software is. All right, check your understanding. Now, we made it to the end of this chapter. Again, I hope you are taking the time to go back and review the videos to help you understand. It's just a tool. It's not here to replace you reading the content. It's here to help you understand it. So again, keep on coding, keep on reviewing, and remember, the more you do, the more you improve. See you in the next chapter.